Think classic American muscle is out of your budget? Think again. For under $20,000, you can own a piece of history. Let's explore affordable icons that'll make your garage and wallet smile. To begin with, we have the Chevrolet Corvette C4. It is undoubtedly an American brand icon. The C4 was manufactured between 1984 and 1996, and any car lovers should make it a point to visit this one. The C4 has a classic shape with an aerodynamic form and a digital dashboard, something that had been unique when the car was first released into the market. Powering it under the hood is a 5.7-liter V8 powertrain that produces 240 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. This baby could do 155 miles per hour and is good for both cruising over the weekends and taking through the twisty bits as well. It came out somewhere at around $30,000 originally in the 80s, which is roughly about $70,000 in today's standard value. But here's the good news. Today you can find an excellent example of a C4 anywhere between $8,000 and $15,000. There are more than 350,000 C4s manufactured, and while they are in no way a rare breed, these cars find more and more fans, especially among Corvette owners. It's a car that blends the old-school power with a little trickle-down technology. Don't be too shocked the next time you hear your friends say, "Is that from Miami Vice?" Next up, we have the Ford Mustang Fox Body, a car that needs little introduction. Produced from 1979 to 1993, the Fox Body Mustang is a true icon of the 80s and early 90s. Ever wonder why the Fox Body Mustang became such an icon in the racing world, even though it wasn't the fastest on the track? It's one of those cars that effortlessly bridges the gap between a muscle car and a modern classic. The 5.0-liter V8 engine under the hood produces about 225 horsepower and 290 pounds-per-foot of torque, propelling it to a top speed of around 130 miles per hour. Back in the day, it launched at a price of about $8,000, and today, that's equivalent to around $20,000 with inflation. The good news? You can easily find a Fox Body Mustang for anywhere between $6,000 and $15,000, depending on the year and condition. With over 2.6 million units produced, finding one isn't impossible, but finding one in mint condition is getting rarer. And here's an interesting fact. The Fox Body was the car of choice for many drag racers in the 80s due to its lightweight build and simple design that made modifications a breeze. If you don't already know, the sound of that V8 rumble is enough to make any car enthusiast's heart skip a beat. Moving a little up the scale to a more specific car, there's the Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS. This 1980s beauty was manufactured between the years 1983 and 1988 and acted as a response by Chevy to the personal luxury coupe. Major features include a 5.0-liter V8 that generated about 180 horsepower and 240 pounds-per-foot of torque. Not bad for a car from this time period. They managed to produce a top speed that floated between 125 miles per hour, which could hardly be considered as a car specially designed for drag racing. Originally priced at $13,000, adjusted for inflation to today's value, this would be approximately $33,000. You're lucky to find a clean example for less than $10,000. Limited Monte Carlo SS models are manufactured about or around $160,000, thus they are rare to see today. Now, even though it was a luxury car, the Monte Carlo SS was arguably the only effort by Chevrolet which was NASCAR-inspired and had a rather sporting touch to it. If you're into a big 80s look, then this is the car for you, my friend. Let's get a little more aggressive with the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, particularly the ones from the 1970s. But what exactly was the factor that made this car such an iconic piece of art? The Trans Am is a classic muscle car that has been featured in countless movies and TV shows, most famously in Smokey and the Bandit. Produced from 1970 to 1981, the Trans Am was known for its aggressive styling and powerful performance. The 1977 Trans Am in particular was one of the most popular models, featuring the 6.6-liter V8 engine that made 200 horsepower and 325 pounds-per-foot of torque, with a top speed of about 150 miles per hour. Launched at a price of $7,000, about $35,000 today, you can find a well-preserved 1970s model for anywhere from $15,000 to $18,000. Only about 3,000 units of the 455 HO were produced, making them rare gems in the classic car world. The Trans Am's iconic screaming chicken hood decal is a showstopper on its own, and it's a car that's always a crowd puller. Now, you might be wondering, why haven't these cars already skyrocketed in value like the classic Mustangs or Camaros? Well, here's the twist. It's not just about the horsepower or the rarity. It's about timing and perception. Many of these models were overshadowed in their prime by their flashier, more famous counterparts. The Dodge Challenger, for example, is often overshadowed by the Mustang and Camaro, even though its performance was on par or better than its rivals. And the Buick GS 455, it was considered a luxury muscle car that didn't quite have the reputation of a Shelby Mustang or a Chevelle SS, but its torque was unmatched in its class. But here's the real kicker. As the classic car market evolves, collectors are starting to see the hidden gems that were overlooked in the past. These forgotten classics are becoming the next big thing in the collector's world, making them prime opportunities for those in the know. So don't be surprised if one of these cars you snag for under $20,000 suddenly becomes the showstopper at the next car meet or auction. Alright, now it's time for something a little more civilized, the Oldsmobile 442. First produced in 1964 and in different versions until 1987, the 442 was one of the best-kept secrets of muscle cars. It was appreciated due to the very good balance between the power and the luxury. For example, the 1970 model had an engine of 7.5 liters V8 with 365 horsepower and 500 pounds-per-foot of torque and maximum speed of 140 miles per hour. Originally, it retailed at $3,500, and adjusted for inflation, that would be $25,000 today. But a good example could be had for under $20,000. The 442 was still one of those cars that occupied somewhat of a low profile, yet you had a lot of power in it. The production quantity hit by 1970 to only about 36,000 units, and this model tends to become a favorite of collectors. A quirky fact, it started out as just an abbreviation for 4 carburetor, 4 gear, and dual exhaust, but over the years, people associated it with pure power. Next on the list is the Dodge Challenger. This is the car that started it all for the Challenger series. With its aggressive stance and powerful options, it was the muscle car to have. The most famous model was the 426 Hemi, which produced an eye-watering 425 horsepower and 490 pounds-per-foot of torque. It could reach a top speed of about 150 miles per hour. The Challenger was launched at around $3,100, which would be close to $22,000 today. However, you can still find a well-kept first-gen Challenger for around $15,000 to $20,000, though the rare Hemi models will go for much more. Dodge produced approximately 165,000 Challengers during its first generation, but finding one that isn't a project car can be tough. Fun fact, the Challenger's iconic body style was designed to compete with the Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Camaro, but managed to carve out its own loyal following. This list wouldn't exist without mentioning the legendary AMC Javelin, one of the most underrated classics of all time. Why did the AMC Javelin's unique approach make it a cult favorite, even though it's often overlooked? The Javelin was made between 1968 and 1974 and was intended by AMC to be a muscle car. The 1970 model, for example, featured a 6.6-liter V8 engine that produced 290 horsepower and 380 pounds-per-foot of torque and can accelerate up to a top speed of about 130 miles per hour. The starting price was around $3,000, which would be $22,000 in today's money, and it's still possible to see impeccable examples for well under $15,000. Less than 200,000 were built, and therefore it is quite a rare sight today. The Javelin had a long-lasting reputation for smooth lines and sprightly handling. An interesting fact, Trans Am Series competitions were the domain of Javelin, as it was a preferred car in racing circuits. Another car that's grabbing attention for its uniqueness is the Buick GS 455. Produced between 1968 and 1972, the GS 455 was Buick's foray into the muscle car arena. With a 7.5-liter V8 engine that pumped out 350 horsepower and 510 pounds-per-foot of torque, it could reach a top speed of about 140 miles per hour. The launch price was around $3,200, about $24,000 today, but you can find a good example for under $20,000 today. Buick produced around 50,000 units of the GS 455, and while not as well known as the other muscle cars, it has a dedicated following. Did you know the GS 455's torque was one of the highest in its class at the time? It's a sleeper with muscle car credentials you won't want to miss. Finally, we have the Chevrolet Chevelle SS. This classic is iconic for a reason. The 1970 model, equipped with a 454 V8 engine, made an incredible 450 horsepower and 500 pounds-per-foot of torque, reaching a top speed of around 140 miles per hour. The launch price for the SS models was around $4,200, approximately $32,000 today, but today you can find a well-maintained Chevelle SS for $15,000 to $20,000. With over 750,000 Chevelles produced during its run, finding one that's show-worthy is more challenging but still doable. What's even better, the Chevelle SS is not just a car, it's a piece of American history with unmatched street cred. So there you have it, 10 of the most eye-catching and unique classic American cars you can find for under $20,000. These beauties are a testament to the golden age of American muscle and luxury, offering a blend of performance, style, and a dash of nostalgia, all without breaking the bank. So which one of these classics would you park in your dream garage? Let us know in the comments.